The short-term rental discussion, and I'm going to turn it over to Assistant City Manager Austin Greer.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Short-term rentals, the demand, the public interest, and investment continues to grow not only in the greater KC region, but here in the City of Gladstone as well. Staff's seeking guidance from us on whether they would like staff to further and more clearly define the city code and stance on prohibiting short-term rentals in residential areas. Staff would also like the opportunity to research adding short-term rental language to the property maintenance code to enhance enforcement. Currently, in the last couple of years, the city's stance on short-term rentals in residential areas is prohibited by existing city code. And this is what city staff shares with investors or honestly homeowners who are interested in doing short-term rentals. One of the things that they've expressed to us and city staff is understanding the code for the layman person. It is hard to understand, and it's hard for them to determine whether it is allowed or it's not allowed. So I think that's where staff is seeking some guidance on whether you guys would like for us to more clearly define that, whether that be in the zoning code or the property maintenance code. Obviously, we'll have to go down that path eventually, but those are the avenues for research. And honestly, I'm looking for this to be more of an open discussion with you guys, and please feel free to ask me questions. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for Austin?
Austin, my understanding was that you felt like there might be more teeth in the enforcement if we added a change or an amendment or beefed up the language for the codes, not the
Yeah, I think you're right. So right now we're using decades old code to try and address a modern issue. So the language isn't quite there. It's not as explicit to what people are used to reading, right? And then, to be honest, enforcement has been challenging, and so trying to find the right language to add to whether it's the zoning code or property maintenance, that would probably help with enforcement going forward. Does that make sense?
That's one of my biggest concerns and questions is enforcement and how we go about doing that. I mean, we already know that there are multiple properties within the city limits, and we're not really hearing about them until there is an issue at one of those properties. And so I don't know where we go about shutting all of these folks down, enforcing these rules without them, taking us to court or just ignoring us like some of them are currently doing. So what do you think enforcement looks like? How are other cities enforcing this at this point?
Yeah, it's certainly a challenge. I don't think any city that I've researched has it perfectly. It's a little bit like whack-a-mole in a lot of ways. It's more reactionary instead of proactive, unless you have the ability and the budget to add a department and staffing who is dedicated to that full time. I don't think that's probably the route that we would like to take or suggest. It's a bit more reactionary. I know we've had some issues with short-term rentals, and the police may be called, and then we have to address it from a police perspective. But when it comes to challenging it in the court system, we've definitely struggled in that regard.
From your knowledge, is Kansas City, Missouri the only other city in this area that has an enforcement division just for?
No, I think some of the other larger cities that are extremely well funded, I do think they have staff dedicated to it, not to the extreme that Kansas City, Missouri does, but they do have staff dedicated to that. In Gladstone, I think there's probably 12 to 20 short-term rentals operating at any given moment. And that has grown over the last couple of years where, because we've been tracking it for a while now, it was maybe 5 to 7, 7 to 10, now it's 12 to 15. And it's consistently going to grow, especially with the World Cup coming in 2026. And I think staff thinks it would be beneficial to more clearly define that language for outside investors or homeowners, because now if you don't read
city code all the time, kind of like I do or Bob does, it's hard to understand for just the average person. So addressing it in that way might be helpful to just, people will not do it on honor.
Any other questions?
Mayor, you'll recall this issue, we first had to deal with this when we had a number of homeowners associations come here because they had short-term rentals in their homeowners area and couldn't afford to hire an attorney every time they wanted to stop one or there was a problem for one. From that point forward, we used our zoning laws to say that it's not allowed. It's not allowed under our current zoning to occur here. We're sorry. What I'm wondering is if maybe a more flexible plan wouldn't be to somehow create some sort of way to go forth with a special use permit if somebody wanted to establish an Airbnb or a vacation rental by owner or something. They could do it, but would have to first get a special use permit, go through the planning commission, get their approval, notify everybody within 185 feet or whatever it is all around, and let them all weigh in on whether or not it would be appropriate or not. It would seem like there would be enough safeguards there that it wouldn't just open the door to open the floodgates for them, but would still allow the opportunity to try to have one in appropriate circumstances. Might be something worth looking into.
And that's one of those things that we can discuss as we go forth with this. And I know that you're looking for ideas from us as a city council, and we'll just have to continue this conversation and see what you come up with other cities and how they're enforcing and what their ordinances are, and just work through this, because I think that we do have to have something established by 2026 when the World Cup comes. This is going to be a flood of different people coming into this state.
Okay.
I would advocate that we go the direction of beefing up the property maintenance codes. I know that you've talked about that a lot. It seems to me like that's at least the first step that we ought to consider. So I agree with the mayor. We really need to think about this and be proactive before we get to 2026, and then we have to react and we have nothing.
If I may, when we talk about the enforcement action, our prosecutors are telling us we actually have to rent the property, pay for the property, occupy the property before we can prosecute under zoning. And I think what we're looking for is to amend the code and what he had talked about with the property maintenance to make the mere advertising the property actually an offense that we can actually cite for. So I think that's the meat of what we're talking about right now.
Any other questions?
Nice try, but he fixed it.
Okay, good.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you. Well, there are no other questions. We'll move on to our second open study session tonight, the Atkins Johnson Farm and Museum Event Center update. Director Justin Murphy.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Excited to be here tonight and share with you the infant stages of our new event center out at AJ. Here. So, give you a little backstory here. About 6 weeks ago, or maybe a little more than that, myself, along with Community Development, John Lade, who's here in the audience, as well as our museum manager, Mary Newman, took a trip up to just north of Omaha and took a look at a facility that built post and beam barns, if you will, kit barns, that type of thing, and sat down with their team for about 2 hours and looked at renderings and kind of went through things and tried to find something that would mirror what we already have on property. It would actually fit the mold to kind of what we feel we're looking for. So kind of share that with you here tonight. So kind of to start off with, we wanted to look at something that was probably about a story and a half. We didn't want anything too big that would overshadow the house, if you will. And then obviously traditional barn with a widow's peak, because our current barn out there kind of has a small widow's peak on it. And then obviously plenty of outdoor entertainment space to include some patios and things of that nature. So with that, here's kind of the first look at what we could actually envision out there. Again, with the Widow's Peak on top, you can see some traditional barn doors that would close down over the event entry doors there and provide a nice entertainment space. Now, obviously, that's not the finished product. This is one of many renderings we can look at, but kind of here to get your reaction and kind of first thoughts here on this look and or even some of these looks as well. You can see the top right there with the red barn with the red roof. You can see that there's space there under it that would provide an outdoor entertainment space. Variety of different looks there that we can kind of go for. Interior considerations, not really to get into this really deep tonight, because obviously we need to kind of get your feedback on the shell, if you will, and then start to build out the inside. But we're looking at a 4,000 square foot facility that would house about 150 for a banquet style sit down. Obviously, if we want to do school groups and our programs out there, we get a whole lot more than 150 because that's not going to be banquet style. So really banquet style weddings by weekend and then program space during the week for our educational programs. Would obviously need some office space, a small caterings kitchen, maybe a bridal and groom suite, obviously bathrooms, and then storage for our field trips and event programs and things of that nature. Kind of interior finishes, these are just some things they shared with us up at Legacy Post and Beam. There's many more styles than just this, but what you see there is kind of what you would envision the inside interior look like. Probably a stained concrete along with the Post and Beam interior. Some other parts of the project have included, we actually learned that our septic system on site is large enough to maintain with a little bit of tweaking to it, but a lot less than we were anticipating. So that was a nice find, if you will, in the budget. And then obviously we want some increased lighting around the property, and then use of remnants, as we've discussed, of the old barn to be included in the new barn. So that's kind of the 30,000 view, if you will, of getting started. Just wanted to get some feedback from you all tonight to kind of see, and we have friends of AJ in the audience here as well tonight. You know many of them, and we ran this by them a few weeks ago, and there was not one opponent to the look and style of this, so they're completely on board as well.
Any questions?
Just a comment. I think it's really exciting. I like the idea of it. I like the looks of it. I just think we need to really be mindful, and I think I already wrote this in a note to you, that for sure we need to include an outdoor space, like a patio big enough. I had the opportunity to go to a wedding at, I think it was in Smithville or close to Smithville, and big outdoor area where people were dancing and there was bar set up and some food there. So I want us not to make it too small on the outside, so that I think that we could really take advantage of using that outdoor space as well.
Exactly. I mean, you know, I've been to a couple of weddings like this as well, and if you look at this picture, which would really kind of fit nice, if we were to build a patio, it would have to come out the front door, if you will, but it could be a pre-function space. And then, just like you said, is after the bridal party's done doing their vows and things, that maybe they need to do pictures. Well, your group needs to go somewhere to have maybe a drink and or some appetizers. So out the front, under that shelter space you're speaking of. So this, like I said, is not the finished product. We would add some type of overhang that would provide exactly what you're speaking of.
Justin, a couple comments I would make is, one, do we have aerial overview showing how this layout is on the map? I know you don't have it tonight, but that would be interesting to see, just to see where growth potential could be if we don't want to have it be being in a space like this multiple times. The biggest concern or people look back and wish I would have done differently was a big enough catering kitchen. I know you put that in there, so making sure that there's space for that, as well as access for caterers to come in and out without being through steps and whatnot. So it's all obviously ADA, and it would be obviously. But the other comment, if you go to the interior photos, one of these looks like it has it and the other one does not. Are we looking to HVAC these?
Yes.
Okay. That would be my number one.
Yeah. Especially on a day like today, or a couple of weeks ago, certainly. And to answer your question, we do not have an aerial view right now. That would be kind of the next step, is once we kind of venture down this road, we'd hire a construction manager who would assist us with some of that, and we can bring that back to you and share it at that time. We as staff have had internal discussions on how we would enter the caterer's kitchen, where it would kind of go on site, how it would all kind of lay out.
Thank you. Justin, the exterior's traditionally wood or some synthetic material?
One more
The
time.
exterior, true wood or synthetic material?
True wood, I'll look back to John Lottie on that. Yeah, it's all true wood, yes. But it's, I don't know what the exact term is, John, but it's a larger, thicker style, like old school style, if you will, not the 2x4 is a true 2x4, if you will, not 1 3/4.
Gotcha.
This is a sore subject, and I'm sorry to bring it up, but we don't have funds for a parking lot, right? Because I keep thinking you're coming to a wedding and you're gonna be on a gravelly parking lot. Ugh.
So at this point, there is no dedicated funds at this point for a parking lot. However, if there are savings, I know the city manager has an interest in that. But again, we want to build the facility right, first and foremost. And then hopefully with the savings from the septic system, we'll be able to address a little bit more of asphalt top parking lot, if you will.
Great. I would encourage that if we can find a way to make that happen.
Justin, I don't think I heard right. Did you say that the Friends of the Farm all agreed on something here? At our last meeting?
I asked if there was any opposition. That was my last statement, I think, that night. And no one stood up and yelled at me or threw anything, so.
I really love the post and beam idea. I've seen drawings and renderings of pole barns, and I've always thought post and beam was the right way to go here. I also think outside is going to have a lot of potential for use, as much as inside, from the ones I've attended also down in Shawnee. And from the pictures of the interior, the only thing I would say is you all need to be real careful of making sure that it's not too big or too small. Now, a lot of these pictures look just a little too big for me, but I also don't think it ought to be too small. I think we're looking at something maybe not quite this large. I don't want something intimate and small little chapel, but I don't know that we want a large half-empty space either.
Or partitions at some
Yeah.
point, right? To be able to
Visual partition, yeah.
I think the site will probably dictate a little bit of that, because we are within some wet areas and things of that nature, that it's not gonna be able to get too big, but I think we'll be fine getting it large enough to seat that 150, maybe even a little more than that for a sit-down wedding.
So Justin, my nephew was married back in April, and I remember when I saw these, when you presented these to us, I thought, this sure does look like the venue he got married in Wichita. So I gave him a call, said, you know, can you give me some information about that? And he said, certainly. It's exactly the same thing, and it was fantastic. It was wide open, there weren't any beams. I love the look of the beams, though, it's very cool. If you back up to the slides on the outside of the building, there, the one with the red roof, which I'm not stuck on the red roof thing, but the right side of the building is what they had, where that was the whole outdoor patio. And it was covered, and it was a good thing it was, because it was raining. So it was really nice to have that that patio with the cover on it. And then they had the grooms and the bridal quarters on the other side, just like this shows here. It was wonderful. So I'm really happy to see these. I love the design. I think it's going to be a real win out there at the farm, and look forward to that interior design and part of this exercise. So. And thank you to all the Friends of the Farm for your assistance and for your agreeing on this. I think that it's going to be just one more thing to bring people out to the farm and enjoy that area.
Is this facing west? Is that, I'm looking at an aerial right now.
The entrance would be facing, if we were to like take this one here, it'd be facing east. So your entrance would be exactly how, it would sit exactly how the barn sits now, which is facing east. of course, all up for discussion.
Well, I'm just not understanding how that's possible based off of what I'm looking at, but that doesn't mean anything either. I mean, I'll show you just Google map of it, right?
So that would be facing this way, you'd have to clear out some through here.
So facing that way would be west, correct?
West is that way, so the entrance would be off the path here heading back.
Okay.
Does that make
Understood.
sense?
Yep, okay. So the back will back into the parking lot area.
Correct.
Obviously a little.
Or to what I
south.
call the old new barn, which is the newer acquired barn that's on the west side of the property.
Yep, yep.
The back side of the barn would face that direction, and where that's kind of where we talk about the caterers, kitchen entrance and things of that nature.
Got it.
Again, those are all, this discussion we're having, nothing's, just kind of working through.
Anything else? No? Great. Thank you, Justin.
All right,
Appreciate
we'll
it.
keep things rolling. It sounds like everyone's kind of agreement here, just like the Friends.
Exactly.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Well, we've got about 6 minutes until our meeting starts, so we'll be back in a few.
Who's this?
I'm not sure. I'll get ready.
Never seen you before. I'm here.
Order. I'd like to welcome you to the regular city meeting for Monday, July 8th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, please note all council members are present and we have a quorum. Please stand for the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is item number 4, the approval of the agenda. If there are no objections or changes to the agenda, it will stand as presented. Item number 5, approval of the June 24th, 2024 closed city council meeting minutes.
Mayor Spall.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the approval of the closed city council meeting minutes of June 24, 2024.
Second.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes stand as approved. Approval of the June 24th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes.
Mayor Spall.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the approval of the June 24, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes stand as published. Next item would be communications from the audience. Members of the public are invited to speak about any topic not listed on the agenda. While speaking, please state your name and address for the record and limit comments to 5 minutes. Seeing no communications from the audience, we will move on to item number 8, communications from the City Council. Councilman Davis.
Thanks, Mayor. My only comment is actually a thank you from my boys. They wanted to say thank you to the City of Gladstone for the 4th of July celebration. They enjoyed the fireworks and the great music we had, and just wanted to appreciate everybody for participating and being a part of that.
Thank you. Councilman Garnos.
Nothing this evening, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the opportunity on July 4th to join with some other Clay County residents for the reading of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution at AJ Farms. So that was an enlightening event. I also wanted to add my thanks to Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts for all their effort on the July 4th, as well as our fire department, our police department, and everyone else involved to make that event a success. I know it just doesn't happen, so I appreciate all of that. I also want to thank Councilman Garnos and his wife Lori for helping clean up with the Glad Green team on Saturday. We cleaned up M1 by Walmart, which is always needed, but I do appreciate everybody coming out for that. And just encourage you, it's 2 hours on the first Wednesday of each month and the first Saturday of each month. So I think we're making a difference in the way that Gladstone looks. I also want to pause for a moment, Mayor, to honor the memory and the service of former Councilman Dave Fricke. Dave was appointed to fill the unexpired term of Bill Reynolds in 1998, and he lost his life this past week.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Also to everyone that participated in the 4th of July and putting that all together. I always figure that's the one time of the year that you don't mind seeing your tax dollars go up in smoke. That's the oldest joke I know. Just want to throw it out there. And thank you, Councilman Moore, for the kind things you said about that Dave was a friend to a lot of us. And more than just a neighbor, friend of me and my wife are probably 35 years or so, and good friend, and we're going to miss him.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you. Had the pleasure of spending a morning with Director Murky and members of the public for the dedication of our new piece of public art at Oak Grove Park called Monarch Girl. If you haven't had the opportunity to drive past Oak Grove, please do. Take a moment to step out of your car, go over and look at it. It's a beautiful new piece right on the corner of Troost and 76, basically at the entrance into the park. And it is, you see it from two different directions. One is a monarch butterfly, the other is a little girl jumping. And it's absolutely beautiful and a great addition to our public art here in Gladstone. Also, I'd like to say congratulations to Mayor Pro Tem Smith, as he is a brand new grandpa as of this past weekend, and we're very happy for him and his family.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all I have. City Manager Bear?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Two items. There will be an open house informational meeting this Wednesday at the community center, so we can talk about the dog park and going in at 76th and Antioch Road. That was in the design phase, and I think some of those designs are ready for the public to look at and make comment on. Stop by between 5:30 and 7:30 and learn more about it. And then Walmart is hosting a ribbon cutting this Friday at 9 a.m. to showcase the recent remodel that they've done. It looks really nice. That's all.
Thank you. Next item is item number 10, the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please explain and read the consent agenda.
A consent agenda allows the City Council to consider and approve routine items of business without discussion. Any member of the City Council, the city staff, or the public may request removal of any item from the consent agenda and request that it be considered under the regular agenda if discussion or debate of the item is desired. Items not removed from the consent agenda will stand approved upon motion by any council member, second and unanimous vote, to approve the consent agenda as published or modified. Consent agenda. Consider special event permits. Sharp Agent KC Remax Revolution Client Appreciation Picnic, Happy Rock Park West, Saturday, July 20, 2024, 5:30 to 9 o'clock p.m. Gladfest, Linden Square, Friday, October 4, 2024, 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. Saturday, October 5, 2024, 10 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. and Sunday, October 6, 2024, 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Resolution R-24-39, a resolution authorizing change order number 4 in the amount of $96,025.75 to the contract with Infrastructure Solutions, LLC for the FY24 water main replacements and storm drainage project WP 2487.
Does anyone from the audience, city council, or staff wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Swallow.
Councilmember Moore.
I move to approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda stands approved. And moving on to our regular agenda, item number 11. At this time, I'm going to reopen the public hearing from June 10th, 2024 for our site plan revision for property at 7200 North Broadway. First, we will hear from the applicant regarding information the City Council requested about truck ingress and egress. And then we'll hear from those in favor of the new information or opposed. Gary?
Good evening. We've gone back and we've looked at the site, and we provided in the sharing packets pictures of the exactly, it was actually showing the movement of trucks through the site. One thing I want to talk about really quick before we start, there was a question raised at the last meeting regarding being able to see through the tree line, see the buildings up there wintertime. So what we did was we proposed, if you'll notice, and go ahead, this is your packet, I apologize for that, moving the retaining wall out and placing a is something we thought we ought to do, and we can do that, we can make it a little wider. So it'll really impinge upon the tree cover afforded by the existing vegetation. Going to the other thing we're talking about is the movement of the trucks, fuel trucks, which was a concern that was voiced in the last meeting. And we have two ways, two drawings showing each way entering the site and leaving. And obviously, the site's too constricted for us to turn a vehicle around inside the site. So it has to be in and out, in one driveway, out the other driveway. And the first slide I've got is showing us what the driveway is entering in off of Broadway. And the dashed lines on each side of that is the outside edge of the vehicle at any point along there, along that travel. So that kind of creates our corridor for the trucks navigating through. And as you can see, on the first one, it appears to be okay. It shows that we're coming off the northbound Broadway, making a left turn in there, swinging around past the pumps, and going up to the fuel storage area, which is on the very south end of the site. And from there, we're exiting and going on out, and we're going out on 72nd Street to parts unknown after that. So that's one option. The second option we looked at, obviously, was entering from the other direction, which creates some problems in the sense that you have a large swing area coming into the driveway. Obviously, if you're swinging to the other lane, though, that really wouldn't be too much of a problem because there's not much traffic coming down 72nd from the apartment complex down there. So that probably wouldn't, in the long run, be too much of an issue. But then you swing on, visit the fuel site, swing on down, come out. But when you come out, you have an issue right there where you have to go out into the middle of the road in order to regain a southbound orientation and go out. And that one, we don't feel is a very good representation of the trucks we do. We feel it would be the other way. I don't have much to say other than that. I've got a gentleman here from a fuel company who can talk to you more about the trucks and things like that than I could. And if I can come up here
Oh, I'd be happy to.
and talk about the trucks, any questions you have for either of us.
Thanks. My name's F.J. Cronenwood. I'm a company called Robinson Oil, and we supply fuel to a number of stations all over town. Probably about 25. Various brands. Some of them are Valero, some are Cenex, some are Sinclair. And I know at that last council meeting, we talked specifically about getting trucks through there. I think what you'll find out over time, and showed those two diagrams, the drivers, they're gonna take the easiest route. I mean, it's typically the same drivers that are filling up most stations. They try to go early in the morning. You know, they pull all the product from a terminal in KCK down by the old Sunshine Biscuit is where all the product comes in. And their goal is obviously to get out as early as possible. There will be times that they would go other times of the day. And I spoke to one of and I think that's where we came up with, where you came up with that diagram. I spoke to one of the transportation companies, and there's a lot of variance between, depending on the type of transport vehicle that they have. And he thought it could be anywhere from 25 to 35 for the absolute biggest transport, probably like some of those ones you see in the quick trips. But the transportation company is going to, they'll make sure that they've got a transport that's going to fit in and out of that lot. And typically, the transport driver will be the same one that runs 80% of the deliveries, and they'll know what the easiest way is. Or if it's too hard to come in off 72nd, they're going to make their job as easy as possible. So I was gonna comment on that. Typically, the tanks that they put in at these locations are 12 to 14,000 gallon tanks, and each load can handle somewhere between 7,500 and 8,000 gallons. So they would, depending on the volume and how much fuel they pump, you know, we would estimate that there'd be a transport driver in there probably every second or third day, just to give you a general. The other thing I was gonna say is, I came to that last meeting about a month ago, and I didn't get up and talk, and these guys know how hard it is for me to not get up and talk, but and I thought, oh, it looks like everything's, you know, like, the property's zoned properly, it looks like everyone's, and I understand there's questions. The thing I would say, and this is something you can't really, you know, and this is all very important that we get through and understand all the details and how trucks can get in there and, you know, how the vegetation is. I have worked with Ari, who owns this property. He's the guy with the glasses over there. Well, I had black hair at the time we started working together. It was probably 17 or 18 years ago. But I mean, the point I'm gonna make is all the stores we've done, I mean, they're the communities that he's in, he loves them. He's probably got 10 stores now in Kansas City. I mean, he gives back the community. He's active in different charity events. I know his, I don't want to be saying this, but I know his son with Down syndrome, and he's very active in the Down syndrome community. And I mean, he's just, the people that, the stations he got, that he has them forever, he keeps them clean, he keeps them, you know, well taken care of. And, you know, I know that's something you can't see up front, but I can, I guess a character witness, if that's the proper way to say it, I will tell you that he runs great stores. And so I just thought I'd get up and say some positive things. And I understand that, you know, there'll be people that are gonna come up opposed, because no one wants gas stations or developments close to them, and the traffic. And someone brought up, oh, that was another thing that came up about the smell, you know, from the, well, you know, how much, someone brought up the question, how much smell does that make when these transport vehicles come in? But they've got self-contained vapor recovery units that actually pin onto these tank lifts, so there's no vapor that escapes when they're actually filling those the storage tanks. There will be, it would be like any other gas station. You put a nozzle in the hose, you're going to get some smell, but it's not going to be from when they're delivering fuel into the tanks and the transportation side. No, I know that, you know, there'll be people that get up and don't, you know, no one likes stores or gas stations, but I can say that if it were to be approved, I can assure you that he's been running convenience stores for 20 years around the metro area, in all types of areas, and he does definitely give back to the community. So that's all I've got. Any questions? I'm happy to try and answer for you.
At this time, we would welcome anyone in favor of the application. Anyone opposed to the application? You may speak.
I'm Vicki Marshall at 401 Northwest 72nd and Terrace. I'm not sure there still won't be a smell, but I can't prove that. And I feel like this is important to me. That's gonna more likely reflect on the value of my house. It's gonna go down because people don't want to live by a gas station. So if I ever go to sell it, I'm kind of ripped off. So, anyway, that's all I have to say, and I thank you.
Jenny Kyle, I live at 7006 Walnut. I'm about 3 blocks from this place, and you mentioned when your trucks pulled out, they pull out on 72nd and go into where? You said no man's land or something. Where would they go from there? Because I have gasoline trucks cutting through my neighborhood now. The other thing I have a problem with is there's alcohol in these stores, right?
Yes.
You say no.
Ms. Kyle, you'll have to speak into the microphone.
There's alcohol in these stores. There's 3 places close within 2 places, this would be the 3rd, within a mile that you can get gas and you can get alcohol and you can get chips or anything else that you want. I don't think we need another one in that area. We certainly don't need any more people buying alcohol and walking the streets and trashing the streets with it that I pick up.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Seeing none, I will close the hearing. We'll move on to item number 12, which is the first reading of bill number 24-21, an ordinance approving a site plan revision for property at 7200 North Broadway. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor Swallow.
Councilman Davis.
I move to place bill number 24-21 on its first reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to place bill number 24-21 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-21 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading bill number 24-21, an ordinance approving a site plan revision for property at 7200 North Broadway.
Mayor Swallow.
Councilman Davis.
I move to accept the first reading of bill number 24-21, waive the rule and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 24-21, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-21 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading bill number 24-21, an ordinance approving a site plan revision for property at 7200 North Broadway.
Mayor Swallow.
Councilman Davis.
I move to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-21 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.675.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-21 and enact the bill as ordinance 4.675. Is there any discussion?
Mayor Swallow.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Thank you. This is a real tough one. These gentlemen, have already introduced themselves as good people, it appears. Jerry, I know you did your best you could with the site plan. The fact of the matter is it still doesn't work. It doesn't work for the tanker trucks without impeding oncoming traffic, even in the preferred way in 4 different places. And no matter where they stop short of the traffic signal going east, they block at least 1 and sometimes 2 of the post office drives. As much as I, especially as an adjoining business owner, would love to have this, because that corner is a dark hole in the middle of the night, brings lights and traffic and activity. The fact of the matter is I know too much about the traffic in this area, firsthand experience, firsthand knowledge, and it just doesn't work. So I'm sorry I will not be able to support it.
Mayor Spallon.
Councilmember Moore.
I have driven to that area I don't know how many times in the last few weeks and just sat there and looked and tried to figure out how the heck is this going to work. And I have to agree with Mayor Pro Tem Smith. It's just seems too congested, too tight. I just don't see that it's gonna work getting traffic in and out of there, tankers plus other big trucks that have to service a convenience store. I mean, you've got Coke trucks, you've got Cisco, you've got everything else. It's too tight. So I will not be able to support this.
Any other comments?
Mayor Swallow.
Councilman Davis.
As I look at this, I don't think it's a question of the entity, and you guys say there is no alcohol, so I appreciate you answering that question. My piece is the traffic. It has nothing to do with the site. It is, the tractor trailers is one thing. The concerns I have, I went out and walked it. It's 27 feet across in the area of the turn lane. To me, it is just not enough of a wide enough street to have this piece there. Unfortunately, I'm scared to death if an ambulance or a emergency vehicle is trying to come down the path, and you know, it's just too congested of an area, and unfortunately, I will not be able to support this as well. Sorry.
If there is no other discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Davis?
No.
Councilman Garnos?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
No.
Mayor Spallo?
No. Okay, we'll move on to item number 13, first reading, bill number 24-22. An ordinance approving the final plat of amended plat of Claymont Point 23rd replat and directing the appropriate officials to affix their signatures to said plat for recording.
Mayor Swallow.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Move we place bill number 24-22 on its first reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to place bill number 24-22 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-22 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading bill number 24-22, an ordinance approving the final plat of amended plat of Claymont Point 23rd replat and directing the appropriate officials to affix their signatures to said plat for recording.
Mayor Swallow.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Move we accept first reading of bill number 24-22, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 24-22, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-22 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading bill number 24-22, an ordinance approving the final plat of amended plat of Claymont Point 23rd replat and directing the appropriate officials to affix their signatures to said plat for recording.
Mayor Swallow.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Move we accept the second and final reading, bill number 24-22, and enact it as ordinance number 4.675. We didn't approve the one before.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-22 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.675. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Garnos?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Spallo?
Aye. Bill number 24-22 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.675. First, item number 14, first reading bill number 24-23. An ordinance amending Title III, Offenses, Chapter 130, Offenses Against Public Peace and Safety by adding Section 3.130.110 on dangerous drugs.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilman Garnos.
I move to place bill number 24-23 on its first reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to place bill number 24-23 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-23 on its first reading, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading bill number 24-23, an ordinance amending Title III offenses, Chapter 130, offenses against public peace and safety by adding section 3.130.110 on dangerous drugs.
Mayor's follow.
Councilman Garnos.
I move to accept the first reading of bill number 24-23, waive the rule and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of bill number 24-23, waive the rule, and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All in favor of placing bill number 24-23 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading bill number 24-23, an ordinance amending Title III offenses, Chapter 130, offenses against public peace and safety by adding section 3.130.110 on dangerous drugs.
Mayor's follow.
Councilman Garnos.
Move to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-23 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.676.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of bill number 24-23 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.676. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Garnos?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Spallo?
Aye. Bill number 24-23 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.676. Item number 15, resolution R-24-40. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional engineering services agreement with McClure Engineering Company in the total amount not to exceed $12,500 for the design of the 24-inch transmission water main, Phase 1, Project WP2492E.
Mayor Spallo.
Councilmember Moore.
I move for the adoption of resolution R-24-40.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution R-24-38 stands approved. Item number 16, is there any other business?
Mayor,
Yes, please.
I forgot
Mayor Pro
something.
Tem Smith.
I forgot something. This coming weekend, Thursday evening, Friday evening, and Saturday all day and evening, there is the Midland Empire Shows. Carnival that plays Gladfest will be in the parking lot of the Gladstone Bowl, and it is a fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Would appreciate anyone that could help get the word out.
Absolutely. Funny. Any other business?
Mayor Spallo.
Councilmember Moore.
That great delicious corn is now available at AJ Farms, so everybody jump in there and have it, because it's good.
I need to find some time to go by and get some of that.
I'll get some for you for a fee.
Okay. A ride on the Scrambler, that's what I'm saying. If there is no other business to come in front of us this evening, we will adjourn. Thank you.
I've never seen a need for that there.